everybody. I'm Brian Wynn. I'm President and CEO of the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Adam Bree, who's the CEO of Skydio, a very exciting company with some great technology that's coming to the marketplace. Adam, great to see you via Zoom. I hope everything is well with you, yours, and your family, and all your workmates.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. I'm very excited to be here today and have the chance to talk about some of the work we're doing.
Well, good. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first, and a little bit of the history of Skydio, so that everybody can kind of place you in the interesting community that we both live in.
Yeah, so I've been dealing with stuff that flies since I was a little kid, probably like a lot of people in the community. I grew up flying radio-controlled airplanes. Took it way too seriously, traveled all over the country flying in competitions, and that's really what got me interested in engineering. And at a certain point, I kind of changed my focus from trying to be a good pilot myself to trying to develop software and technology that could fly with capabilities beyond those of the best human pilots in the world. So I met my co-founders as grad students at MIT. Our lab was on the forefront of a lot of autonomous flight technology in kind of a research setting. And the basic motivation for starting Skydio was we felt like drones had enormous potential across a lot of different industries and applications. And we felt like trustworthy autonomy, being able to trust the device to fly itself, was going to be really a key enabler for what we saw as the most valuable, interesting applications. So we started in 2014. We've launched 2 products, and we're very excited now to see a lot of traction with our consumer product, but also a lot of exciting stuff happening in enterprise and public safety applications with Skydio too. Yeah.
Well, that's all great stuff. Since we're right in the middle of this pandemic, it looks like it's not going away right now. Tell us a little bit about how you've been out there basically bringing solutions to the market in this environment.
Yeah, I mean, I think like everyone else out there, when this really started to hit and we got some glimpse of what the scope and the impact was going to be, and it was really a scary moment for a lot of us. And our first instinct was just, what can we do to help? And in those first few days, we were thinking about all kinds of crazy ideas. And I think that we pretty quickly settled on, like, let's focus on the things that we're good at, where we already have customers doing things, and are there opportunities there to help keep people safer, make things more efficient. So a few things really came to the fore. We had already been planning on partnering with public safety agencies who were using drones to deploy some of our products and technology. So one of the things we decided to do was accelerate that quite a bit. So we started what we're calling the Emergency Response Program in April, where we're essentially donating Skydio 2s with all the necessary accessories and support to public safety agencies. So that was one big one. And then the other, we saw with a lot of our enterprise customers that they were actually using drones more. A lot of industrial inspection tasks for critical infrastructure, bridges, energy grid. A lot of these companies were in situations where they were stretched on the human resources front because they didn't want to deploy too many people into the field. They had workers that were getting sick. So we've leaned into that as well, and we've seen accelerated adoption on a lot of our kind of inspection use cases. And then the last thing doesn't have anything to do with drones, but it does have to do with the fact that we have a logistics network, and we've partnered with a nonprofit called Frontline Support, which is a Silicon Valley organization, to use our logistics network to get 1 million pieces of PPE to frontline healthcare workers, which is something that I think we're proud and fortunate to have the opportunity to do.
And is that last part, that's not necessarily via drone, right? You're just...
No, this is just using our logistics network. So this is using our, the kind of last half of our supply chain to do logistics and distribution, and some of our internal expertise in that. So we're not actually doing physical delivery via drone.
Gotcha. Yeah, it is really a very one of the things I like to point out about the unmanned systems world and the robotics world is we are a community, much more so a community than necessarily an industry. I'm still looking for the SIC code that captures everything that we're dealing with, and as any economist would. But we are a very community-oriented group, and it's really heartening to see that. Go back to your what you've been doing with first responders, and just tell me how. Just give me some examples of that, and how that's been received.
Yeah. So the key benefit for our product for public safety customers is that it's super easy to fly. You don't need to be an expert pilot. You can fly it in really tricky situations. You can fly it close to the ground. You can fly it around obstacles. You can fly it in these sort of like nitty-gritty tactical situations that are typically very difficult to access with drones. So we've seen agencies get stretched thin in their response to the pandemic. A lot of officers are putting themselves at risk by going out into the streets and interacting with folks to try to maintain safety for the communities that they've served. So we've received over 200 applications for agencies that want to use Skydio 2s. At this point, we've donated 50 drones. I think over half the states in the country have gotten at least one. And we're seeing a variety of use cases. I mean, a lot of the stuff is the kind of things that you would expect, like agencies using them when they're entering high risk scenarios, serving a warrant. We've also had them use them for inspecting hazardous materials, so checking out something that they think might be a bomb, situations like that, search and rescue type tasks where it's very difficult to send a person into kind of like a tricky, hard to access location. So we've seen a lot of interesting use cases like that. And we've seen it accelerate in the face of the pandemic, where people have more interest in being able to maintain social distance and get the most out of the people that they do have on the force.
Yeah, my son's a paramedic and a drone pilot, and then became very popular with the hazmat guys one day.
Yeah.
When they had to check out some 55-gallon drums and wanted to do so from a distance.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's keeping, again, that distance can be really important in a time like this. You as you pointed out, you and I have both been aviators for quite a while. Let's talk about autonomy for a second, because that's kind of, I think, the holy grail here ultimately. I mean, we talk a lot about flying beyond visual line of sight, but when we get to the world of autonomy, then vehicles have got to sort themselves, et cetera. How do you
Mm-hmm.
see that, you know, evolving out of the current situation? Are we going to see an acceleration toward that? And how would you advise us at AUVSI to kind of help work with the regulators? And I say us, I mean all of us together, work with the regulators to bring about that kind of a future.
Yeah. So my view on the whole space really is that it's still very early days. I think that we're very early as a community, as a country, really as a civilization, for realizing the full benefits of what these small unmanned systems can do. And I really believe that autonomy is the key lever, because it's the thing that changes it into sort of a reliable piece of infrastructure where you can deploy 1 or 10 or 100 drones and have them go off and perform a useful task without needing the constant attention of a skilled operator. And to a large degree, I think drones have kind of flown under the radar a little bit. Like, people have talked a lot about self-driving cars and these other kinds of autonomous systems. But drones are real, and we have real customers that are doing real stuff and getting real value out of these things today. So I think the technology is a lot further along than a lot of people in kind of mainstream circles realize. And I think that I think there's a healthy kind of incremental process with regulators. Like, our vision and our basic goal is to develop systems that are superior in safety, reliability, performance to what manned pilots can achieve in every sense. And I think a lot of the pieces of the technology to do that are there today, not all of them. And I'm generally very optimistic about the response of regulatory agencies. I mean, I think that they're dealing with complex scenarios and they care a lot about safety. But I think, from my vantage point, I think we've seen really powerful incremental progress over the last 5 or 10 years in the drone world. And I'm generally pretty optimistic that as autonomous technology becomes more mature, that the regulations and the policies will recognize that and reflect it. And I think it's healthy to to kind of move slowly and prove these things out and make sure that they work. But the big thing that we believe in and that we advocate for is just kind of the pragmatic risk-based approach of like, let's look at the world as it exists today, where you have humans that are responsible for flying drones, and then let's look at the risks associated with flight in kind of an autonomous world and compare those two things. And if we can get to a place where it's safer, then I think the regulation should reflect that.
And you mentioned automated vehicles on the ground. Obviously, there's a lot more to hit down here on the ground. And AUVSI, as you know, is all things unmanned. So although we're not working in space right now, we are working in the maritime, the air, and the ground domains. How do you see an opportunity for what we're doing in creating that autonomous future in the air as giving us some predicates for what we want to get done on the ground and and the maritime domain as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great line of thinking. I'm probably not neutral on this, but I believe that drones are going to be the first really widely deployed class of fully autonomous systems, because they bring together a lot of nice properties. There's a lot of value that you can provide with a flying sensor platform while posing very little risk to people and property. So there's kind of a high reward to risk ratio. And from a technical standpoint, they're extremely challenging in a lot of ways, but they're not as hard as a lot of the ground problems that need to be solved to have a really fully autonomous system. So to a large degree, I think you can already see this with small unmanned drone use out there in the world. But I think that we'll see autonomous drones get to scale, and I think we'll see a lot of the technology that gets developed there spread into other areas, into ground robots, into water-based robots, as you described. And I really think, from kind of the 10,000-foot view, I'm just incredibly excited to be working on this stuff at this moment in time. And I feel like as a civilization, we've been building computers and software and algorithms and working on this stuff going back a really long time. And we're just at the moment in history where it's all coming together, where you can build these useful autonomous systems that provide real value to people out in the world. And I think we'll look back on this period as kind of the early days of PCs or something like that, where there's a real technology revolution and the right ingredients come together for a real paradigm shift and enabling sort of a new capabilities with a new category of device.
Yeah, I'm excited about the same kinds of things that you're talking about, the convergence. I think in the real world, what we're facing though is different regulators in each one of those domains. And they're very different from each other, even though the FAA and NHTSA work for the Secretary of Transportation. They have very, very different regulatory histories and paradigms. And of course, maritime, that's centuries almost of regulatory or at least rules. So I just say that because if we could create the same kind of convergence in thinking among regulators, I think we could advance the technology a lot quicker.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, and I think that, I mean, this is a mental activity that I try to push myself through and the company through as much as we can, is trying to bring fresh eyes to problems and think about things from sort of the basics on up. And I don't know who said this originally, but there's somebody said something like, if the car was invented today, it would be banned immediately.
Yes.
And I think that's really true. Like, I mean, if you look at the risks associated with driving cars and the noise and the pollution and all these things, like, if cars just appeared out of the blue today, there's no way people would the regulators would allow it. And you can see that, like scooters, there's lots of drawbacks to having electric scooters, but, they're on net, arguably in a different sort of whole different world of impact than cars. But because they're new and they change things, like it causes a lot of problems. So, I think that it's healthy for us as a civilization to try to take that look of like, what are we really talking about? What are the risks? What are the benefits? How does it compare to things that we're already doing?
Indeed. Well, very thoughtful discussion, Adam. Adam Bree, CEO of Skydio. Thank you very much for your time today. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, this has been great.